Hello and welcome to my channel, and thanks for coming with me on this adventure. In today's video, you'll be following me along as I try to turn one giant piece of foam into this Colosseum. Alright, we're gonna begin. Bust out the old measuring sticks and T-square and start trying to figure out how to cut this thing. It wouldn't fit on my Proxxon saw, which I'll be using later, so I had to bust out the floral foam cutting tool that I bought at a dollar store to try to just cut out the big square of it. The square is about the size of my table. I didn't really have a plan or know how big I wanted it to be tall wise, but width wise I'm gonna stretch it out to every inch I can spare of the big table I have in my living room. So it's about 3 foot wide. I don't know exactly how tall it was going to be. At this point, I was just trying to figure out how to cut big old circles out of this square. Finally got it to a manageable size that I could get it over to my Proxxon saw and really start cutting out the base shape. I tried a few ways, drilling holes in this yardstick so I could use to spin it, and it took a lot longer than I thought it was going to get that cut out. Like I said, I didn't really know what size I was going to make it, so I was just guesstimating. So after some quick, messy cutting to get out the first 2 layers of the build, I then went and got the remaining big piece I had of foam and tried to figure out how to cut it in 2 pieces to make one big piece, because I'm really aiming to keep all this Colosseum on one sheet of foam. Couple quick cuts and we're almost done. Finally, we got all 3 pieces cut, stack them on top of each other, and we're moving on. Alright, now we're gonna cut out them arches. So I'm gonna go ahead and make myself up a little template. Someday I'll buy some from Shifting Lands, but for now I gotta do what I gotta do. So I drew one up, cut it out of some chipboard. It isn't perfect, so I had to sand it out a little bit, but I made about 50 of these with it. What you're watching is just the process of me doing that and breaking the string on my Proxxon saw about 100 times, which I cut from the video because I didn't think people would like to see that. After cutting all these, I realized I didn't need them to be this thick, so I sliced them all in half, doubling the number I had and halving the amount of time that I would have had to have spent on it. After getting them all sliced in half, I set the Proxxon saw to an angle and started cutting an angle in every single one of them so they go together and make a nice round circle around the top of my Colosseum, making it a lot easier to stack a second floor onto the top of it. I know you can buy a little tool that you can sit pieces of foam down on to cut angles with, but I don't own one of those, so I was looking around on the internet trying to figure out how to cut angles with this. After a few hours, I found a tutorial on how to sit the Proxxon saw with a protractor on Blackmagic Crafts, so thanks for him for saving me a lot of time and money trying to cut these angles. Alright, time to cut out some pillars, probably about 50 of these too. So I went ahead and made myself a little stencil out of chipboard. I would really like to get the thing from Shifting Lands that lets you rotate it as you use the Proxxon saw to cut the pillars. So my pillars end up looking a little bit wrecked, which is fine. I'm gonna end up making it a crushed Colosseum. So here we go. We're gonna turn all of our scrap that we have from cutting the original pieces of the arches into pillars. Just like the arches, the pillars didn't need to be both-sided, so I cut each one of those in half, and we're going to use them to double up and put them on all around between the arches to fill in the gap there. Time to bust out the caulk and get it all stuck together. Now that we got all the rings for the base put together, I'm going back in with the caulking and filling in all the little gaps. That way we can have a nice smooth base. Grabbing the caulking again, we're gonna put it all over the back of all these arches and put them all the way around, trying to fit them as close as I possibly can to fit as many as I can around the base. After I got all the base ones done, I started trying to figure out how to use the caulking to stack them up. This is the first time I'd ever used caulking to put any foam together. I usually use Mod Podge and black paint. Once I got all the way back around, I left a little gap so I could make a little box for our boss to look down upon the challengers to the Colosseum. Now it's time to caulk up these pillars and put them between each of the arches to cover up that gap. I'm not really sure what these things that I'm making are called, but it's where the little doors are that they release monsters out, or lions, or whatever time era you're in. I pressed some paper into the crevasses and outlined it with a permanent marker so then I could cut each of the 3 steps of seating that I wanted to do. This is just a junk piece of foam from a Walmart remodel. Cutting up some junk foam and using a little bit of fast drying air dry clay to fill in all the gaps and make it a little smoother for me to paint on or add details to. Using some junk foam, I cut up a whole bunch of little squares to make some pedestals for my past heroes that I plan to put between each of the arches in our Colosseum. I grabbed a couple minis that I had laying around. Some I had bought on Etsy, a few HeroClix minis, and a couple How to Train Your Dragon minis later. We put all of our minis onto our new little pedestal bases, gluing them together with a bit of tacky glue. Alright, now we're building the Imperial box for our big bad to look down on our fearless challengers. Getting the last little bit of seating cut out and glued down underneath the Imperial box, and adding a nice little seat for our big bad to sit and watch. This was for sure my favorite part of the entire build, just throwing Mod Podge all over the place and spreading it around, getting ready to douse the entire thing in sand and gravel. And here comes the gravel, making sure to pour it into every single corner and really spread it around. When I get done with this, I'm going to turn it upside down and shake it all out and absolutely keep it all on the table for sure. Time to really get at it with that aluminum foil, pushing it into every spot so when I hit it with the paint I get that nice ruined look. Usually I would go over the entire project with Mod Podge mixed with black paint, but I discovered Liquitex spray paint, which means it doesn't burn through your styrofoam like a normal aerosol can does, and it ended up working up really well. Took a poll with my play group and asked them if they wanted it to be all black with a lava type design or white with a ethereal blue design, and they chose white. So we picked up some latex spray paint titanium white and hit it over top of it, kind of giving it that Zenithal Prime look. Hitting the pedestal of all of our minis with the Liquitex spray paint to make sure we don't burn through the pedestals and give them that super ruined look. So we don't waste any of that Liquitex white, I went and got some Rust-Oleum white and hit all the minis and gave them a nice even coat of white. And then with the remainder of the can, I went around and filled in the black spots that were left on the Colosseum. Now it's time for a little puppy magic. I'm going to summon them. Alright, with our primer all dried up, we're going to go in with some Army Painter speed paints. I'm going to try to get it to look like some nice sand in here. I'm very happy I discovered speed paints after 20 years of painting models with acrylic watered down paints. These paints made it so much easier to get that nice mixed color, and it's so much faster. Picked out my favorite blue and I covered the entire thing with this nice ethereal blue. You'll see here I got real bored of painting with only one hand, so I decided I would dual wield the brushes for maximum speed and efficiency. Decided I would paint all the statues and the bases the same ethereal color that the rocks that the Colosseum were made out of. Grabbed my box of Citadel skull models and picked out way too many of them, probably not enough, and I spread them all out around the arena and glued them in. Another really fun part, covering all the little crevices and wherever I would want to put the flocking down. This is the first time I've used flocking in such a gigantic area. I was very surprised after I used what I thought would be half the container of it. I gathered it all back up and poured it back in, and it looked like it hadn't even been used. So I think this flocking might last me the rest of my life. Made the mistake of thinking I could just dip the mini bases into the bottle of Mod Podge. I went ahead and just patiently painted each base with Mod Podge. And that's it, friends. Thank you for staying till the end and listening to me ramble on. This was my first big video, and it was a heck of a learning curve to be able to edit and record all the different bits needed to make this enjoyable. I spent about 12 hours making this Colosseum and over 40 editing this, so I really appreciate you sticking around, and I would love to hear from y'all in the comments what I could do to improve both my build and my video quality. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and create.